Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Miss Recap. On the first day of her sophomore year in high school, Naho Takamiya is running late. While rushing, she finds a letter written by herself 10 years in the future. In her class, there's a new student named Kakeru Naruse who sits next to her. Naho, Kakeru, and Naho's friends, Hiroto Suwa, Takako Chino, Saku Hagita, and Azusa Murasaka, are all invited to walk home together. They share some buns from Azusa's family bakery, and later in the day, Kakeru hangs out with Naho and her friends. However, Kakeru is absent from school for 2 weeks. When he returns, he jokingly claims he was just skipping class. During a softball tournament, Naho's letter advises her to accept an offer to be a pinch hitter to avoid regret. This decision leads to the girls' softball club winning the tournament. After the game, Kakeru helps treat Naho's blistered right foot, and she starts falling for him. The letter warns Naho to keep a close eye on Kakeru, who may not be alive in 10 years. Fast forward 10 years, Naho and Suwa are married and have a baby boy named Matsumoto. Kakeru is surprising because he never brings lunch to school. Naho helps Suwa by sewing a button back on his school uniform, and in return, Suwa invites Kakeru to join the boys' soccer club temporarily. Naho spends the evening making 2 packed lunches. The next day, she feels nervous about giving Kakeru a lunch during her morning classes. After school, Kakeru notices that Naho's lunch bag is bigger than usual, but Naho avoids him. When soccer practice is over, Naho apologizes to Kakeru for being abrupt. As Suwa leaves on his bike, Naho and Kakeru walk home together. Kakeru asks about Naho's hobbies, and she inquires why he was absent for 2 weeks. Kakeru shares that he had to move after his mother's funeral, as she had sadly taken her own life on his first day of school. Finally, Naho gives Kakeru the packed lunch, and it makes him happy. She is determined to keep him smiling every day. Her letter reveals a future where Kakeru dies in an accident. 10 years later, Naho and her friends get ready to visit Kakeru's grave. Suwa tells Naho that Kakeru will officially join the boys' soccer club. Even though her letter says something different, Naho realizes that the future can change. After early morning soccer practice, Naho and Kakeru deny having crushes on anyone else. During a half day at school, Kakeru gets drinks from the vending machine for Naho and her friends, and Naho picks orange juice. Just like Naho's letter predicts, Ria Ueda, a girl who watches Kakeru during soccer practice, confesses her feelings to him. Later, Naho lends Kakeru a pencil, an eraser during class. After class, Naho finds a note in her eraser cover from Kakeru, asking for permission to date Ueda. Although Naho responds with a no on another note, and leaves it in Kakeru's shoe cabinet, he sees Naho's note too late after already agreeing to date Ueda. A disappointed Naho goes home and drinks the orange juice. 10 years later, Naho and her friends read a letter from Kakeru's time capsule, realizing that he wrote to everyone else except his future self. 10 years later, Naho and her friends go to visit Kakeru's grandmother, who Kakeru used to live with after his mother's sad passing. Flashing back to 10 years ago, Naho and her friends hang out at the mall during a school break. Kakeru and Ueda start dating after the break, and Naho loses chances to talk to Kakeru. Following the letter's advice, Naho needs to start talking to Kakeru again, even though it seems difficult with Ueda always around. 4 days later, Naho tries to get Kakeru's attention, but Ueda accidentally bumps into her, causing Naho to fall. Kakeru quickly helps Naho, and an upset Ueda leaves in tears. Feeling guilty, Naho runs away, but Suwa stops her and encourages her to talk to Kakeru. Naho hurries to sort things out with Kakeru, while Takako and Azusa wonder what Naho might be keeping from her friends. At an outdoor bench, Kakeru shares with Naho that he plans to break up with Ueda because he might be in love with someone else. On a rainy morning, Kakeru arrives at school all wet because he forgot his umbrella. Naho lends him a bath towel instead of a handkerchief, as her letter suggests. When the sky clears in the afternoon, Kakeru takes Naho to a park. As a thank you for the packed lunches, Kakeru gives Naho a hairpin and invites her to study chemistry at the library over the weekend. After Kakeru does well on the chemistry test, the teacher talks about time travel and many worlds interpretation. Naho realizes her letter hasn't changed despite her choices. Taking charge, Naho invites Kakeru to watch the fireworks at the upcoming cultural festival. Until recently, Naho didn't know that Suwa might have feelings for her, but Kakeru, Takako, Hagita, and Azusa were already aware. During the cultural festival, Ueda confronts Naho and demands her hairpin. Suwa steps in to rescue Naho, and Kakeru later bandages Naho's right hand. According to the letter, Suwa is the special person who saved Naho's heart. Kakeru asks Naho to meet him at the swimming pool to watch the fireworks together. On the way, Ueda pressures Naho into carrying 2 heavy packets to the homeroom. Near the swimming pool, Suwa and Hagita trick Ueda into thinking Kakeru is waiting for her in the boys' soccer club room. When the fireworks start, Takako and Azusa handle the packets, and Naho hurries to the swimming pool. Naho and Kakeru hold hands while happily watching the fireworks. According to Naho's letter, Kakeru didn't die in an accident but took his own life. 10 years later, Kakeru's grandmother shows Naho and her friends a letter from Kakeru. He wanted everyone to believe his suicide was an accident. Going back 10 years, Naho and Kakeru meet at the Bon Festival, while Suwa, Takako, Hagita, and Azusa pretend to be late. After visiting a shrine, Kakeru opens up to Naho about his mother's suicide on his first day of school due to chronic illness. Naho gets upset when Kakeru stops contacting her. Suwa visits Naho and asks about her letter. Naho finds out that Suwa also got a letter from his future self. The next day at school, they confirm Kakeru's upcoming birthday, and Naho and her friends decide to celebrate it together. 10 years later, they gather at Kakeru's memorial. Suwa gives Naho a bouquet and shares that Kakeru had always been in love with her. Going back 10 years, Takako, Azusa, Hagita, Naho, and Suwa give Kakeru soccer tickets, a manga, a lunch bag, and a flower bouquet as birthday presents. Kakeru gives Naho Suwa's bouquet and confesses his feelings for her. Shockingly, Naho and Suwa discover from their letters that Kakeru plans to attempt suicide 9 days after his birthday. Kakeru blames himself for his mother's death on the first day of school, when he ignored her messages while spending time with Naho and friends. After admitting his suicidal thoughts, Suwa embraces Kakeru and encourages him to let go of guilt. Naho then honestly confesses her feelings for him. Kakeru passes out during soccer practice, so Naho and her friends keep an eye on him in the infirmary until his grandmother comes to pick him up. Naho and Suwa talk later, realizing their letters didn't mention Kakeru fainting during soccer practice. The next day, Kakeru is chosen for the relay race, and Naho and her friends all decide to join in with him. In their rooms, Naho and Suwa talk on the phone about deciding not to rely on their letters anymore. On 2 different occasions after school, Naho and Kakeru head towards the school entrance, where Kakeru reaches out his hand. Naho is confused as Kakeru walks away apologetically. Later, Suwa, Takako, Hagita, and Azusa explain to Naho that Kakeru simply wanted to hold hands with her. Encouraged by Suwa, Naho tells her friends about the letter she got from herself 10 years in the future. Surprisingly, Takako, Azusa, and even Hagita receive similar letters. This means all 5 of them have the same goal of saving Kakeru. With renewed support from her friends to help Kakeru, Naho makes a conscious effort to strengthen her relationship with him. Azusa's letter predicts rain on her upcoming birthday, even though it's sunny in the morning. Taking advantage of this, Naho, Suwa, Takako, Hagita, and Azusa all bring umbrellas. Naho shares hers with Kakeru. While the others hang out at a diner, Naho and Kakeru find shelter at a park. There, Naho gathers the courage to hold hands with Kakeru. 9 days later, Naho goes back to relying on her letter and learns that Kakeru doesn't enjoy the athletic meet. As family members support Naho, Suwa, Takako, Hagita, and Azusa, Suwa's parents surprisingly bring Kakeru's grandmother to the event. After the tug-of-war, Kakeru starts thinking about his mother. Knowing he might move again, Kakeru says he doesn't mind if Suwa dates Naho. After the pole-toppling event, Suwa gets treated for cuts by Naho at the first aid station. The jealous Kakeru leaves without getting his cuts treated, reflecting on what he said to Suwa earlier. After the cheer battle, Hagita tells Suwa, Takako, and Azusa that Kakeru might have hurt his ankle during the pole-toppling event. Meanwhile, Naho and Kakeru run an errand carrying a heavy mat. Suwa, Takako, Hagita, and Azusa come to help them with the heavy load. Finally accepting help from others, Kakeru opens up about his mother's suicide, which has been troubling him a lot. The others believe his mom would have wanted him to enjoy himself. After getting his ankle bandaged, Kakeru feels ready for the relay race. During the relay, Suwa, Takako, Azusa, Hagita, and Naho each pass the baton, and Kakeru is the anchor leg. Kakeru gets the message that his friends will always be there for him. This inspires him to finish first and lead his team to victory, going against what the letters said. After the athletic meet, Naho realizes her letter isn't always right or always wrong. After treating a scrape on Kakeru's arm, he kisses her on the cheek as a reward for winning the relay race. 10 years later, Naho and her friends talk about what might have happened if Kakeru was still alive. Suwa feels the most regret because he knew how Naho and Kakeru felt about each other. Going back 10 years, there's a plan to visit a shrine on New Year's Eve later in the month. While Naho and Kakeru go off to get taiyaki together, Takako talks to Suwa about not joining the shrine visit. Suwa doesn't want to confess his feelings to Naho, thinking the future won't change no matter what he decides. On New Year's Eve, Suwa stays home while the others go to the shrine. While getting drinks from the vending machine, Kakeru asks Naho if he can go home to check on his sick grandmother. Naho assures him that his grandmother is okay, but they end up arguing because Kakeru doesn't want his grandmother to end up like his mother. Kakeru leaves after the argument. After being scolded by Takako, Hagita, and Azusa, Suwa meets up with Naho to comfort her without confessing his feelings. As the clock strikes midnight, Kakeru smashes his cell phone when Naho tries to contact him. In the past, Kakeru and his mom moved from Tokyo to Matsumoto after his parents got divorced. Kakeru got really sad after his mom's suicide, but he didn't tell Naho and her friends about it. Eventually, he ends up riding his bike into an oncoming truck late at night after finding out his mom left a message on her phone apologizing for choosing to divorce his violent dad. In the present, there's a problem between Naho and Kakeru at school, even when she tries to say sorry for being insensitive to him on New Year's Eve. 10 years later, Naho and her friends meet at a cherry blossom field. Hagita tells them that a researcher found a black hole in the Bermuda Triangle, so they decide to send letters to themselves from 10 years ago. Going back 10 years, Naho tells Kakeru to wait until Valentine's Day. She's determined not to lose him, even if she gets hurt or he ends up not liking her. On Valentine's Day, Naho tries to give Kakeru a box of chocolates, but she struggles to do so. After missing 3 chances at school, her last one is ruined when she drops the box after bumping into Ueda, and it gets stepped on. With determination, Naho meets Kakeru by his locker and asks him why he's been avoiding her. He thought he hurt her on New Year's Eve, but she disagrees and apologizes again. He confesses that he was trying to stay away to prevent hurting her. Naho expresses a wish to date him to make him happy, even if things might go wrong. After they hug, Kakeru asks for the box of chocolates behind her back, while Suwa, Takako, Hagita, and Azusa cheer. The next day, Naho offers to walk home with Kakeru, but he declines because he has to take his grandmother to the hospital. Naho's letter says that Kakeru will die that evening. 10 years later, Hagita tells the others that they can't change the past in their world due to a time paradox, but it's possible in a parallel world. Going back 10 years, Kakeru looks at his late mother's phone. Naho and her friends search for Kakeru when he runs outside. He steps in front of a truck but changes his mind at the last moment, rethinking the support system he has. Naho and her friends find him, showing him the letters from their future selves. After hugging and reconciling, they reveal that Hagita messed with Kakeru's bike. The next day, Kakeru adds his own letter to the time capsule before burying it with the others' letters. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.